This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning and welcome to a beautiful orange sunrise at Djuma Private Game Reserve. It is a crisp and clear morning and I am so excited to take you on your very own live safari this morning. My name is Tessa. I'm going to be your guide here at Djuma. Behind the camera we have Mpo. And I'm really looking forward to a nice clear morning where hopefully now that the clouds are gone we might have a few more animals coming out this morning. So you can see it really is quite a gorgeous sunrise. There is still a bit of a breeze, so it is still quite cold, but it is the perfect golden light this morning to hopefully find some cats for you. We'd love to hear from you. If you have any questions or comments, please let us know. You can find us on Twitter at #WildEarth, at FC if you're on YouTube, or if you're under the age of 18, you can pop us an email at kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. You can also register on our WildEarth website. You can head over to the Live Safari page and submit your questions there. So you can hear it's a beautiful, quiet morning. Just the start of some birds calling in the background. Absolutely stunning morning. I think we're definitely looking forward to going down to some dams this morning, seeing what we can find. Hopefully I can find some nice fresh tracks of a cat. And what a spoil if I could find some wild dogs. You can see that sun is just getting higher and higher. And that color change is one of my favorite things, from the orange to the beautiful bright gold colors in the mornings. And this is one of the best times to be out on safari. This is definitely where animals might still be moving tracks nice and fresh. And everything just looks amazing in this light. We're actually due to have quite a cold day all day today. About 13 degrees Celsius during the morning. Hopefully it gets a little bit warmer later on in the afternoon. Alright, so I'm going to sit and watch the sunrise for a little bit longer as the light changes color. Let's have a look at what the weather is doing in our other locations as well.
Partly cloudy is certainly better than cloudy. Let's just hope the wind drops now and then we'll have a beautiful day. But before we get into what's happening, my name is Tristan, on camera with Morgan, and we are busy tracking a female leopard. I'm almost sure it's Tlalamba. Tracks come up from the south and kind of go up Weirtela Access and then up Aubrey's Road, which is her normal sort of meander, I've lost the track now. It was back there, so here it is here. I'm just marking on the sides of the road quite a lot, so she is often off for a few minutes and then she comes back again. So I just want to double check here where we're going, because there's a couple of big game paths here that she can cut off on. Just make sure she hasn't done so. She very seldom goes left of this road these days. If she go there, you can see some sort of track there. Maybe hyena, that one. So she very seldom goes left of this road. She does do it every now and then, but mostly she just goes straight up here and then cuts into Buffelshoek and then starts turning back to the east once she's gone up there. I don't see her track now. She might have cut off on that game path. I saw a track go on that game path, but I couldn't see whether it was hyena or her. Wrong side of the road. Right, well, let's just carry on up this road, because either way I'm going to turn and come down. If I don't find anything further here, then I can just start heading that side and see if it cuts out. I know this game path where it goes straight out onto Sandy Patch Road. So we'll just check there. The track looks pretty good though. It looks like from early this morning, not early last night with the wind. I believe a lot of you are crossing fingers that we're able to find her. Well, it's going to be, tricky with her because she goes such long distances. She doesn't just sit still, this cat. So, we could be in for a long haul morning trying to keep up with her tracks. We'll see how we go. Hopefully, she's only just walking in these areas and we'll be able to see her pretty quickly. The other issue is that where she might head, the signal can get a little bit sketchy the further north we go. So let's hope that she just remains on the roads, and that will make life a lot easier. Alright, I'm going to keep checking here, just see if we pick up where she's gone. In the meantime, let's send you across to Nick and Ngala to say good morning.
Good morning and welcome everybody to andBeyond Ngala Private Game Reserve. And have a look what we have found this morning. A hippo, but have a look at the oxpeckers that are sitting on the hippo's head. And if you watch them carefully, see how they're coming down. Not so much to feed off ticks off this hippo, but more so to use him as a bit of a rock to drink off. My name is Nick, and behind camera we've got Gert again this morning. And it is a really lovely morning compared to yesterday where it was quite overcast and windy. So today there is still a slight breeze blowing from the southern side, but nowhere near as intense as yesterday, and it's much, much warmer as well. So he thought we'd start off this morning at this waterhole in the east just because it's quite close to camp. And I was hoping maybe that we'd get you and the hippos wouldn't yet be in the waterhole and we'd catch them sneaking back from their evening of foraging, but they were in the water already. But really nice to get a brief glimpse of those oxpeckers sitting on top of the hippo's head. Oh, and there you can see a whole bunch more fly off. And you can see there are 4 hippos. The one on the far left just ducked its head underwater. So yeah, unfortunately, George, I'm not quite sure who the SH male is, but yeah, you can see these hippos still just relaxing. I'm sure they had a long night feeding, and now they've come down to the water for today. I'm sure they're not going to leave at any stage during the day. But our plans this morning were to come here and then maybe check the east. I'm really hoping that the African wild dogs come back onto the property, and then we'll wait for updates from some of the other rangers as to hear what they end up finding this morning, and we'll take it from there. It's always nice to start off at one of the water holes. You never know what quite might have made their way down here during the night. And the light is quite pretty. See how still the water is as well, just shows how little wind there is this morning. There are a few birds coming down to drink as well. It's going to be a little bit tricky for Gert, but he might be able to get it. Oh, he's a champion. So there you'll see there's a ringneck dove in the tree. But we'll continue from here and see what this morning holds for us.
I absolutely can't wait to see what this morning holds for us, much like Nick. And so far, it's just a beautiful, quiet morning. A lot of hyena tracks around this morning. I know there were quite a few on the dam cam last night, nothing unusual. You can hear the wind, but there is quite a breeze. But I think that's going to play to our advantage today. Might make the leopards feel a bit more inclined to move around. Nothing like a morning bumble in the bush. I think it's going to be a very good day. I have that lucky feeling.
Still on the tracks for this leopard. She's still moving exactly the direction that we thought she would. She's crossed into Buffalo's Hook now. She's going to take this road, and then depending on how far she is ahead of us, normally she goes up towards Long Pole, which is the antenna, and then she turns back southeast as though she's going towards Torchwood side. So for now we're still just kind of going, but she already walked a long way. Problem is she keeps going off the road for like long periods, and then she comes back on again, making it quite difficult to track her actually. See, like now I can't see her footprints anymore. Looks like she's maybe cut off again. I'm gonna try just quickly check this junction to see if they're still here. She could have gone into the blocks here to hunt something, then come back. She's also been scent marking, but her usual route is this direction. Okay, nothing there, nothing there, nothing there. Let's just quickly check a little bit on this road, just to see if she can pop out this side. So this is not the best way to be doing this, but, you know, this is what we got to work with at this stage. Alex, male lions don't protect their cubs like at all. They're not going to come running to the aid of a cub just because it's a cub. So that's a misnomer. Male leopards, male lions, they protect their cubs by providing a safe place for the cubs to grow up. So they do all the interference and they run around and they saw, roar, scent mark, and that keeps other male lions at bay, which protects the cubs. But they are not actively going to come to the aid of a cub very often. It might happen once in a blue moon, but it's really not the function of the males. The males are there to try and just provide sanctity and a place for cubs to grow up. What's wrong? Oh, lions. That's not what we're looking for. Well spotted though, Morgan. We're looking for a leopard, but yeah, she definitely won't be in amongst this lot. Here's all their tracks here on the road, yeah. Must be Talamatis. Looks like just the three of them. Maybe that's why she turned. She might have heard them or seen them. Very nice, beautiful light. They're really resting. So it's the three girls. I wonder if SA8's with them. He's been with these three quite a lot the last little bit. I think if it is just the three of them, it looks like just the three. So it's one of the older lionesses on the right. It looks like all of the older ones. So I think these are the three that have been hanging out with him. It's the one that had cubs a few months ago. I don't know if I think those cubs are no longer, because they should be with her at the age that they would be. So I suspect that it's those three girls from the Talamatis. They, like I say, have been spending more time north in Manyaleti, kind of northern Buffelshoek. They haven't been down this side for a while, but maybe with all the commotion that's been taking place over the last few days, they've decided to come up this side and see what's happening. You can see she's kind of, these two are completely passed out. They don't want to do anything. They've got their back to the sun, but the other one has got its nose up every now and then just to sniff. When it's windy like it is today, they often will sniff. Is that old purple eye? Looks like it. Yeah, it is. You can see the atrophy on the hips as well. So yeah, maybe got a sore back. Now she normally is with those, like the group of three, like I say, is normally her as well. She often joins them. But with them being chased, I wouldn't be surprised also if the pride is split into smaller groups, and just when they kind of got scattered by S8, and then eventually they'll all come back together again. But they're not going, I mean, it doesn't look like they are interested in doing anything this morning, these three. I think after a cold day yesterday and the sun coming up today, it's still a cool breeze. I think they're going to just enjoy having a bit of sunshine on their backs and tummies and take it easy and rest. But it'll explain why we lost the track for the leopard on that road there. Maybe, like I say, she heard them or saw them, and she cut southwards around them. So, you know, we'll sit here for a little while with these guys to see if they're going to do anything. Otherwise, we'll get back onto those tracks and keep following, see where she goes. Like I said, don't expect a huge amount of activity from these lions if it's this time of the morning and they're already starting to go flat like this. It's typically an indication that they are not in the mood to do anything this morning and want to just absorb some sunshine and warm up before lying down and resting. And who's to say what they've been up to during the night? They could have chased all kinds of things and had a very busy night. That's also very, very possible.
Okay.
Listen, you're saying what a nice surprise for a cat today. surprise, isn't it? Certainly, funny, when we were driving on the road just now and I was looking at tracks, I saw something and I was like, looks a bit lionish, but we're going to go around that way anyway. Let me just, we'll just check for the tracks. So it must have been a lion. I just didn't register very well. But yeah, very nice surprise when you're bumbling, tracking a leopard and lions show up. It's always nice when that happens. It'd be nice if they were walking, if I'm honest with you. They look
Welcome back. I'm actually at Twin Dams here on Djuma, and myself and Import just noticed that there was quite a bit of activity on the water, and this looks like a congregation of aquatic beetles that are on top of the dam, and every now and then there's a little terrapin or a fish that's coming up to try and eat them, and they scatter. Very interesting to watch that they're kind of just almost swarming around each other in the water. So this is actually one of the bigger species of aquatic beetle. It's probably close to 1.5 centimeters each beetle. There you go, a little scatter. And I actually, to be perfectly honest, don't know why they are kind of congregating and still swimming in circles like that. Maybe it's a defense mechanism. If you're on your own, you've got a high chance of getting eaten, similar to kind of fish sticking together in shoals. And from the surface, they actually look very similar to tadpoles. So you can imagine they would be quite high in protein for fish and terrapins to eat. But just so fascinating to watch them moving like that across the top of the water. Almost seems like the ones towards the middle of the circle aren't really moving that much. But they take turns to kind of quickly jet to the outside and back. A lot of beautiful birds calling as well. Whoa, that's a big disturbance. Oh, we've got a pied kingfisher that looks like it wants to. Well, actually, it was hovering over them for a bit and then it stopped. It looked like it wanted to come down and get one of them, but then it moved off. Definitely more interested in fish. It's actually landed on the bank, so we can't see it anymore. But it hovered over them for a good 2 or 3 seconds and then decided not worth it. Looks like tiny little boats in the water or fireworks cracking off. Unbelievable. I'm definitely going to sit here for a little while longer and see what happens, because there seem to be a lot of things coming up disturbing them. Very, very unusual to watch.
As WildEarth has shown, a guide is critical to your enjoyment when on safari. Safari Guide of the Year is an annual event which creates awareness for these men and women who dedicate their lives to tourism and wildlife. WildEarth fully supports this initiative that gives more credit to a profession that drives our economy and flies South African flags higher than most. In the lead up to our live award ceremony, where the Safari Guide of the Year 2021 will be crowned, we are inviting all our viewers to join us for a special fireside chat. Open to everyone, this unique event invites some of the top guides in the country to Djuma on the 26th of September, straight after the Sunset Safari.
Being nominated to the top 5 and finally being here, for me, it's an achievement. Tracks, I believe I did quite well, and the walk, and sometimes you often drag their feet forward. The storytelling as well. So yeah, I think that's where I see my strongest point. And then, that was the opportunity of the scraping. I say the bedding and the call, definitely, for me, it was quite a big challenge. Guiding is not all about the award that we have had, but in sharing the experience and continue to do what we have passion and love.
Something very, very interesting. I didn't plan this, but this is a scene rarely seen. This is what we call a journey of giraffe. So beautiful.
Tune into WildEarth every single day. It's in your nature.
Well, as you can see, not much has changed. We've had to move a little bit because our signal here where we are is a little sketchy. We're just over a little ridge, which causes a bit of a breakup for us, unfortunately. And it's sad because Tavangumi is right here as well. But I'm not sure we'll be able to get him. We'll try go there just now and see if we can get some semblance of signal to see him. He's really not far away. In fact, if you kind of pan off, Morgan, from these lions, you see those tall green trees and that little tower there. And he's over there. So in that direction. To your left a little bit. Over there in that little green thicket. That's Hardekul Camp, and he's lying on the other side of that little green thicket. So he's very, very close, but unfortunately it goes down there and then it starts to go up. So if he's north of the camp on that upslope, then we'll be all right. But if he's in the dip there, we're not going to be able to do anything about it. Our lionesses are still, like I say, very, very stationary. They don't look as though they're doing too much. And so I don't think we're going to spend all morning with them. If they get moving, then we can come back. But it seems like they're going to take it very, very easy for now. Gwen, I don't know if you can, Gwen is our director this morning, if she can maybe just let Tessa know just to check for me on the Buffelshoek Djuma cut line and then down Cheetah cut line, because Kalamba, when she walks this route, what she does is, like I said, she goes up towards that pole called Long Pole. So there's a road, Long Pole West, Long Pole East. So she goes up Long Pole West and then starts to turn back southeast on Long Pole East, and then either she bends towards Nsinga, drinks at Nsinga, and then cuts back south to Torchwood, or she goes back onto our cut line with Buffelshoek and then onto Cheetah cut line and then into Torchwood there. And the tracks, when I was looking at them now, while they're good, she could easily be quite far ahead. So if while we're sitting here, Tessa can check there, then that's going to at least cut down some time for us, and we'll be able to hopefully figure it out. All right, I think we're going to leave these lionesses for now. Like I say, they really are very, very stationary. We'll try quickly to see if we can get signal with Tavangumi, and then if nothing, we'll come back to them. And then in the meantime, let's send you across to Nick, see how he's getting on.
So we did have a beautiful adult mature martial eagle in the tree that was busy feeding on something, but as it always goes, as soon as we want to try and share it with you with birds, it flies away. But it was magnificent. There was really spectacular lighting on it, a mature adult with really bright yellow eyes, and it had some type of carcass in its talons. Not quite sure what it was, but it didn't look, if you remember, a few days ago we had the tawny eagle feeding on this what we thought was a spur fowl, and this morning I think it might have been a mammal of some kind. It looked like it might have even been a hare that the martial eagle was feeding on. But it's nice to be seeing so many of them around. It's not a common bird. They do exist here, but it's not a common bird to see around these parts, just because they're relatively nomadic and they are vulnerable. And I think the reason they're vulnerable is mainly because of habitat loss or change in land use, which is pretty much the same thing. Martial eagle is also one of our star birds here at Ngala. And when I refer to star birds, it's just 10 birds that andBeyond's decided to try and focus on when driving around Ngala to sort of incentivize birding between looking for the bigger animals. We have managed to find a herd of blue wildebeest on the right here as well. I just want to see if we can't get a bit of a clearer shot. That might be it with them all coming through. So Adam's asking a question about eagles and their nesting sites. Often they will go back to nesting sites that they've previously used if they were successful in raising their chick, but they won't always go back to the same site. Some birds will have their nest stolen by other birds, and then they'll want to go nest there, and maybe a bigger bird stolen the nest from them, so they'll have to move off. Sometimes the nesting site is not as suitable as the previous year, where maybe some of the sticks were blown away or fell through, or an elephant broke a branch and the nest fell out the tree, and in that turn they'll sometimes look for a different nesting site. What I've seen at Ngala, we've got tawny eagles that nest in the central sort of western part of the reserve, and they, in the last 3 years, they nested in the first year I was here. Then last year we didn't see them nesting in those 2 trees where they've nested, and then this year they've moved to a different nest. But a nice herd of blue wildebeest this morning. I'm going to see if we can sneak a bit further forward and get another better view of them. Jeepers, it's like Ngala's great migration here. There must be close to 30 wildebeest here. There's an even bigger herd in front, so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to drive forward and see if we can get a nice open view of them. This might be our best view from here. It's not the best view, but it is a view nonetheless. And you'll see that tree that's in picture as well, that big tree. It looks like a tree wisteria, which should have beautiful, beautiful purple flowers coming onto it soon. And the herd of wildebeest moving through at the back. See what I was mentioning, why they come out into these open areas at night, because it's a little bit safer, and then in the mornings it also gives them an opportunity to feed on the nice grasses. This part of Ngala as well has been, or the soil base is, it comes from gabbro, so it's got a little bit more nutritional value in it, and thus the better grasses grow here. So for an animal that likes good grazing like these wildebeest, it's a pretty good area to be in. So we'll keep checking a little bit further just towards our eastern boundary with Kruger, and if nothing, we'll head back towards the river and maybe head south this morning and just check our boundary in the southern part of the reserve. are back, and we haven't made it too far, but we've got another probably minute on this road before we get to our boundary, and we'll just have a quick look down into the clearings with maybe some binoculars and the camera, see if there's nothing lurking there. I was thinking about it yesterday afternoon. There's 3 young lions that have moved away from their natal pride, 2 lionesses and a young male, that we've seen in this part of the reserve quite a lot, but for the last maybe 3 months they haven't popped up. They might have come onto Ngala, but we just haven't been able to find them. I was wondering if maybe they wouldn't be out and about this morning. But with the Wildebeest being in the position that they're in, I don't think there's too much around that would be bothering them. Lots of hyena tracks here. I thought there might have been one African wild dog track, but it looks like just hyenas. This is where I might just stop quickly and have a scan with our binoculars into the clearings. It is a little bit into the sun, so it's not ideal, but sometimes you have to take what you can get. Absolutely nothing. Worthwhile coming to have a look. Nothing around. So what we'll do is we'll turn back and head back down the road that we've just come down. Maybe if we're lucky, that Marshall Eagle will be perched somewhere further south from where we originally saw it. So as I said, we'll keep checking down towards the river and then check a little bit further south. But for now, we're going to send you back to Tessa.
Or maybe it's where we parked, should we go forward a bit, maybe?
Djuma. So we were driving along and noticed a beautiful herd of kudu, and something very interesting is happening here. This male is ready to mate with this female. You can see he's standing right behind her. He keeps sniffing her, so he's testing whether she's ready to mate, if she's in estrus. And he's literally so close behind her that he's touching her all the time with his face. It's resting on her back, or literally just following her around like a train car. See how closely behind he's following. Also look at that size difference between male to female is unbelievable. She's just trying to have her breakfast and he is so close behind her. So this is actually quite unusual because mostly kudus would breed or mate in the winter seasons or the winter months. So this is a little bit later than normal. But then again, each kudu is different. Each kudu is individual, so they might be in cycles at different times. Paula, yes, a male kudu would mate with females in a different herd if he found a herd that didn't already have a dominant male, which is quite possible because herds would move around, females would move around. And so if he comes across females that are ready to mate, he will definitely mate with them. But you can understand, though, that if there is a female like this, that is... he's doing a bit of a phlegm and grimace there. You can see he's opened his mouth as she's urinating. So that's just testing her urine with the organ of Jacobson, which is on top of his palate, the roof of his mouth. When a female is in estrus, you can see how closely he's sticking to her. So it would be very unlikely for him to just happen to bump into a female who is in estrus and ready to mate, because chances are there would already be another male there. He literally does not leave her side. So normally most kudu calves are actually born in about February, because kudus are pregnant for about 9 months. It's very similar to a human. It's on average about 270 days. And so by mating now, if she's only coming into estrus now, that means she's going to give birth quite late next year. In fact, probably slap bang in the middle of winter, which might be a bit of a challenge because there won't be as much food available for her. Oh, there we go. Nope, unsuccessful this time. It'll be a challenge for her to make enough milk for the calf, because if there's less food available, it means her milk will be less nutritious, but she'll also struggle to make enough of it, which is actually why most of them would give birth around February or the beginning of the year, so that there's enough food available. But let's just have a look there. He seems to be quite intent on actually mating at the moment, so he started kind of moving towards that as opposed to just following her around. Very interesting to watch. He actually lines himself up perfectly behind her, but look at that size difference. It's actually quite a lot of weight for her to carry. He is a lot heavier than her. He's gotten distracted. He might have heard something he's not so happy with. So you can imagine when any herbivore, there we go, that was short and sweet. When any herbivore is mating, being this distracted by a female in estrus puts them both in danger, because you can see they're not concentrating on much else. And an oxpecker has joined the party. It's actually very interesting. These two are lagging behind the rest of the herd. The rest of the herd is actually moved off into the thickets. Layla, the estrus period would probably be quite short, so very similar to other herbivores, where they're not going to come into season every month or every 2 months. It'll be a once a year kind of thing, and it'll probably last in total, the period where they can actually mate successfully would probably only be a few days to a week. So it's a very short period. That being said, it is quite common that if a female loses a calf, she might come into estrus again. But that is much more common in predators than in herbivores. And again, that's got to do with the seasons. That's the furthest he's stepped away from her, actually. So it was actually very interesting when we stopped here. We actually stopped, we saw the kudus, and as we stopped, two of them looked up and stared off into the same direction he's looking in now. And that could be because there might have been a predator. So we're on the edge of the drainage line. Could have been something like a hyena. They could have just smelled something on the wind. But that stare in particular is what we look for in herbivores. You can see it's fixated on a particular spot, listening very carefully. So let's just listen. Maybe there might be some more alarm calling. Maybe even a bird or a squirrel. Well, that's what it is. There's a hyena. There's two hyenas walking on the opposite side of the drainage line in the thick bush. And that's what they've heard. We won't even get those on camera. They are so thick in the bush. But it's just two hyenas that are walking off into the distance, which might actually be following another predator too. But isn't it amazing how he changed so quickly from intent on mating to all of a sudden he knew there was a predator? So even though he is busy doing something else, he is still aware. And that's the life of a herbivore out here. You've got to be aware of your surroundings. But it's very similar to the rutting season in impalas. It's the easiest time for a predator to get hold of them because they're distracted by fighting other males. So I was actually hoping with him looking like that, that he might actually bark. Because that bark of the kudu, the alarm call, is incredible. It's a big, deep bark. I'd be very interested to see if there are other predators around that the hyenas might have picked up on. They're definitely still watching those hyenas. So I think I'm actually going to stick around for a few more minutes, see if there is anything else that the hyenas might be following or anything that catches the kudu's attention. But what an interesting interaction to see them attempting to mate.
Civilized to just found some black rhino tracks, a mother with a calf. The calf tracks are so small. They're somewhere here in this area, but it's too dense to walk this way. So we're gonna walk around where it's not so dense. Let's hope we get lucky.
And sometimes you often drag their feet forward and deposit the scent mark, which is that what they use to patrol their territory.
We managed to get a glimpse of the black rhino, but for safety reasons, of course, we held back and we walked a different way, but it was such a fantastic experience. We didn't just focus on the big things, because it's not all about the big things. We focused on army ants and lots of dung. Civilized did an incredible job, but it's up to the judges now.
This is a battle of two great carnivores of the African wilderness. Whew. Whoa! You don't want to be under those jaws. Definitely, this round goes to the lion. Look at that. Fantastic.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
The bushhawk feed allows the camera person some creative license. This is my favorite style of shooting. You have to be mentally and physically prepared. You're shooting handheld in some very strange and contorted positions, always with a straight back, often in the squat position, low to the ground. The creativity comes down to the relationship and sync you have with your presenter. The more you understand each other, the more you'll be able to tell the story seamlessly.
Copy that, thank you. Well, no luck for us, I'm afraid, with Tavangumi with signal, so I'm actually going to swap out with Tessa so that she can come into Buffel's Hook, because Wendy's got better signal than Rusty. So I'm going to try and get back onto the cut line, see if Kalamba has maybe come back onto the road or onto the Djuma side. She evidently bumped straight into those three lionesses, because if I look where the tracks were and where she kind of departed, it was just as those lions turned up to where we found them. So I think she must have bumped into them and then just turned and kind of cut down. So I'm hoping she's going to have popped out somewhere here in front of us. It's in all likelihood where things could, well, where I'm hoping she could come out. She might have turned north, but north for us, I'm afraid, with Rusty is not going to work. Wendy might get lucky. Where Tavangumi is lying is where Ali had him the other day on Buffel's Hook. So it's possible that she gets signal there, and it's possible that Kalamba actually ends up going there as well. She used to use Hardekool Dam quite often, so it wouldn't surprise me if she actually does head in that direction. So we're going to get back onto the Djuma side of life and slowly bumble eastwards and see if we don't pick up her tracks coming back our side. If not, then she's still in that block close to where those lions were. Given if she did spot the lions, they couldn't have been too far from there. So yeah, that's just the update so far. Let's see how we go, and hopefully we'll be able to find her tracks again or find something else on the Djuma side.
Are you hoping for Kalamba to have?
Elsa 17. No, I'm joking. I would like her 16. Yeah, no. I mean 17 was being ambitious. No, I would like her to. I mean, in terms of one litter, it would be really epic if she had a litter of 3 one day. I just think it would be cool to see 3 cubs with Kalamba, and also because I think she deserves it for the hard time she gave her mother. She deserves to have her hands full for a few weeks or months. So. No, I think 3 would be cool, but in reality 2, I think I'd like for her to have 2. That would be the nice number. I always like 2 cubs because the cubs then play, and you know they kind of have their own little life, and they typically actually relax a lot quicker than what a single cub does. A single cub becomes very shy, very wary, doesn't want to attract too much attention to itself. Whereas when there's 2, they're often playing and they keep each other busy, and so not as worried about you. I don't know why, they just habituate easier than a one cub situation. So I would like for her to have 2, but I mean 3 or 4 would still be epic. Imagine if she had 4. How cool would that be? It's not common, but it does happen. 4 cubs I've seen in Kenya. Not personally, but I've seen footage of them from Kenya around Kikarok. And then there was in Thornybush, there was a female that gave birth to 4 cubs. I think it was last year. Maybe last year. so it does happen, but it's very, 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 very unusual, as is 3. You know, the average is normally 2 for leopards, so it would be nice for her to have 2, and I'd be happy, I think. And to raise them to maturity, you know. It would be really cool to see her and 2 older cubs playing together, and I think I'd like it to be 1 male, 1 female. Morgan, any thoughts on this matter?
I'll say 17.
17. I thought you said 16.
Okay, 16. How many leopards can a leopard have in their lifetime, Wesley?
So Wesley, that's really very variable. It's dependent hugely on how successful that leopardess is in raising of cubs. So the more successful they are, the less leopards they actually produce, which doesn't really make sense, but you must understand, like Shadow, for example, she gave birth to more leopards than what Karula did, but Karula raised her litters where Shadow didn't. So in terms of the number of leopards that they can have in their life, well, that really just depends on how many leopards they raise to maturity. The average, though, and from the science, is that female leopards, on average, only raise 1.5 leopard cubs in their lifetime in this area. So it's a very, very low percentage. Is that a hyena track or a leopard track? Hyena track. They raise a very low percentage of the cubs that they actually have. But in terms of how many leopards they can have in their life, I mean, I reckon Shadow must have... I don't think we ever kept a tally, but I wouldn't be surprised if she had like 13, 14 litters. So, I mean, she could have had close to 30 cubs in her time, but she really only got the 1 to maturity, which was Sindile, and that was also various bio roundabout circumstance. Anyway, our signal is giving us issues, so let's see across to...
Alright, welcome back. So I have left the mating kudus and I'm actually driving north at the moment, straight up Cheetah Cut Line, because that's where the hyenas actually turned in. So they're walking, their tracks are going up this road, and I had a feeling that they might have been following a leopard. And that's because before the hyenas showed up, the kudu were already staring in that direction, which is why we actually stopped and had a look what was happening. And then only a while later did we see the hyenas coming through. So I'm fairly sure there might have been a leopard or maybe even a lioness or something walking in front of the hyenas that they were following. So I'm just checking really slowly all along the cut line, checking for tracks. I haven't seen any crossing yet. So possible that the hyenas are actually walking on top of the tracks of another predator. It is starting to warm up quite nicely, which I'm happy about. Holly Darkmane has actually moved, it sounds like a little bit further south. Nobody has actually seen him today or yesterday afternoon. But his tracks, if I can get my mind around my words, his tracks were crossing south. It sounded like into Torchwood, but we haven't got an update on him since then. He was fine after the interaction. He didn't get injured. There was no actual fight, so he's just had to move out. So this might be the start of kind of the overthrow that they've been preempting for about 2 months now. There are a lot of hyena tracks in the road. Interestingly enough, I haven't seen any tracks of leopard or lion. But I'm fairly sure that they were following a predator. What might have even happened is maybe the hyenas also got fooled by the predator. The predator went and lay down in the drainage line or somewhere, the other cat, and the hyenas missed it and carried on walking. Very, very possible. So definitely worthwhile going to check that drainage line again just now. We did have a quick look before we left and couldn't see anything, but masters of camouflage, you never know. Hello, giraffe. Straight into the sun, unfortunately, but we're going to give it a bash. This is a beautiful big dark giraffe. In fact, his spots are almost black. Alright, so I'm going to stick with this giraffe for a little bit, just see what he gets up to. But in the meantime, I'm going to send you off to watch our eco training prize that you can win.
If you are a WildEarth explorer, then we are excited to announce that there is another unique prize for you to win. Sign up to be an explorer before the 16th of October 2021, and you and a friend could be heading off to an eco training ranger experience. This 2-night opportunity offers a living and learning adventure where you will combine seeing incredible nature with gaining knowledge on how animals live in the wild. You will approach dangerous game on foot, learn how to track, do some 4x4 driving, and have an exclusive opportunity to join the WildEarth team behind the scenes on the live show. After each action-packed day, you will relax around the campfire and listen to the nighttime choir of animal sounds before you drift off to sleep. WildEarth explorers, it's in your nature.
Well, we've got our big bull elephant friend that we had the other day. It's the old one-tusked wonder. He's busy feeding on the fire break exactly like he was the other morning. His Ellies have been enjoying the fire break a lot with these bush willows that are sprouting all this greenery. I think they are enjoying eating something that isn't dry. You can imagine what they've been eating over the last few months has not been that pleasant. He's having a good feed though over these trees, and you'll see he won't feed long on them. He'll eat a little bit and then he's going to move away. You'll also notice in that frame there's 2 little black birds that are sitting there. Those are little drongos that are feasting off all the things that he's disturbing as he's walking along. They're following him around. It's very, very common to see little drongos around elephants. Poor drongo though is sitting on the same trees feeding on, which means they're being bounced around all over the place. There you go. You see, they just caught an insect, which is pretty cool. Must be so nice to have a mobile insect disturber, don't you think?
Definitely.
I think so. And for the elephant, it must be nice to have a little mobile fly catcher. Just anything that's buzzing around you gets picked off by these little birds. There you go. See how they are active and they're kind of flying in amongst his feet and his trunk and all of those things. So as little insects are disturbed by his feeding, so they can benefit from it. Now, it's a nice sized bull, this. He's not monstrous, but he's a decent sized fella. It's amazing. From here, he doesn't look that big, but the other day when Morgan and I had him, it's not a small elephant. When you're standing close, he certainly had a lot more presence and demeanor than he does from this distance. Look at him breaking branches. Josh, I think from a temperature point of view, they prefer winter, but from a food point of view, undoubtedly summer. In summer, it's like they get to go to a buffet and ask for anything they want and absolutely destroy it. Whereas in winter, it's like they've got to actually work to find food, and most of the food is pretty drab and boring and not very pleasant. So yeah, I think for them, summer is much nicer from a food point of view, but it's just so hot that they probably prefer the temperatures that winter brings. Allows them to walk around and be a little bit more active in the day. Alright, well, he's going behind some vegetation, and can't off-road on the fire breaks for Ellie's, so we're going to leave that there. But I do want to just turn around because I just got a report now of two different things. One of Tundi crossing into Torchwood, but it's also again on the edge of our signal range, so I don't think I'm going to go there. But the other thing is which I want to go and follow up, is they saying to me that they've got a track for a male leopard coming into Djuma, so that hopefully is a much better option for us, given that I know where that is, as we've got a nice signal. Alright, our Ellie's disappearing down into the thicket, so we're going to carry on, go try and get down to those tracks and see if we can have some luck.
Welcome back. I'm still on a bumble looking for cats, and just absolutely lovely to be out this morning. At least it's warmed up a bit. So I've still been looking for leopard tracks and lion tracks on the road. Nothing yet. But there is a giraffe up ahead. That I'm happy about. See if we can get a nice view of that. Oh, don't go away. Not so sure. Oh, there we go. Very noisy magpie shrike in the background. You can see this giraffe is looking a little bit nervous. It's actually a female on her own, which is quite unusual. And she's not very old either. She's quite small. So maybe she's also feeling a bit nervous because there have been a few hyenas about this morning. She is quite beautiful regardless, so nice to spend a bit more time with her.
Welcome back, everyone. We had a slight change of plan on our eastern boundary where we were looking for tracks of the African wild dogs. Found tracks of what looked to be 2 or 3 young lions. I don't think they were from last night. I think they were maybe from yesterday at some stage. So we're just slowly checking along this road that we're currently on, which is called South River. And there's just lots and lots of hyena tracks, all heading in this direction. But no, none of the lion tracks coming back this way. So they might have come in and then headed back out of Ngala. But we'll check this road to the left. If there's no tracks here, then we will continue south. Always nice getting out in the morning and not really knowing what's happened the night before and trying to paint the picture by looking at the tracks and signs on the roads. This road that we're on now is one of our main roads, so it's driven by lots and lots of vehicles every day. And I think even this morning there would have been a few vehicles that would have driven over it. Clara, up, touch and yes and no. I think in the past 7 years, or maybe it's 9, in the past 9 years, I think they've denned on Ngala 6 times. This year we were unfortunate to not have them den on Ngala. They den just off on our western boundary in the Timbavati. So nice for those guys that work there that got to see them. And we were thinking that it might have been a result of all the lions that were around and the fact that our main pride had broken up into 3 different groups. So there were just lions all over the show and they were just moving in all directions at all times. And might even be a reason why the wild dogs haven't spent so much time on Ngala as of late either. Gee, there's a big Kuru Bull there. Might just have to reverse a bit more. There we go. I just saw him out the corner of my eye. Have a look at those magnificent horns. So I wonder if this bull is bigger than the one that Tessa was watching mating, or if he's smaller. If the one Tessa saw was bigger, I'll be surprised, because this is a really, really big bull. He's similar to what the cow was doing earlier, also just browsing off. I think it's a bush willow. Might be an apple leaf that they are feeding on, but we're gonna send you back to Tessa.
Welcome back to a beautiful female giraffe at Djuma. I'm actually right on the eastern side on Cheetah Cutline, and she is very adamant that she's going to hide behind every tree today. So I'm actually not going to move because she is quite nervous in the wind. And so I'd rather just let her be comfortable and carry on feeding because she does move as she feeds. It is quite unusual to see her all on her own. But she doesn't seem to be too bothered by it. You can see she's still feeding. She is still very alert. She keeps looking up and listening when she's done feeding. With a very long purple tongue. Ash, actually, yes, giraffes do lie down. It actually looks a little bit weird because the only way that I can kind of describe it is they don't lie down flat on their sides. That would be incredibly difficult for them to actually get back up with the weight and the length of that neck fighting gravity. But what they do is they actually lie down on their stomach, so they fold their legs in underneath, and you'll see just this long neck and head sticking out of the grass as she's kind of lying down. And then if they do want to rest their head, they kind of twist their neck backwards and rest their head almost on their bum, on their hips. So it does look quite weird. But yes, they do lie down because you can imagine it must get quite tiring being so tall. Oftentimes they'll lie down or be more comfortable to lie down if there are quite a few of them together because there's safety numbers. It does take them a little bit of time to get up from that position because of those long legs and the heavy neck. Right, I'm going to see if I can reverse just a little bit. Hopefully it doesn't disturb her. With the wind today, all of the herbivores are quite nervous. And that's a natural reaction because the wind covers up the sound of predators. So, there we go. That's a beautiful view of you. So naturally, with any kind of sounds and movement around her, she's already quite nervous in the wind. That will just kind of make it a bit more difficult for her to detect any danger. But she's enjoying the bush willow leaves there. There's not very many green ones. But she's still getting everything that she can. You can see there's actually a fork-tailed drongo that was balancing behind her in the leaves. And she moves frequently from tree to tree. Whoop, the fork-tailed drongo gave her a bit of a fright. It's almost preempting where she's going to move. That's unbelievable. She's moving very frequently from tree to tree because as she's feeding, the trees have their own defense mechanism to make the leaves taste bitter. So as it starts tasting bitter, she'll move to the next tree. And she'll also be moving away from the wind at the same time because the wind is going to blow the pheromones that the trees release, which cause their leaves to go bitter. As they do that, they release a pheromone, and the trees downwind of them will pick up on that pheromone and already start making their leaves bitter. So she's actually moving, or trying to move, in a direction where the trees won't already have bitter leaves. Very interesting. Rachel, they prefer to feed on green leaves. They can feed on yellow or brown ones as well. Obviously, though, the green leaves are going to have the most nutritional content. So that's ultimately what they want, because every animal has to do a kind of balancing act between how much energy do I spend versus how much energy do I take in. And so if she's spending energy eating brown leaves when she could be eating green leaves on the same tree, she's wasting a bit of energy because the green ones are definitely going to serve her better. So they definitely prefer green leaves, but if they have to, they will definitely eat brown leaves, especially through the dry season, because you can imagine at the moment there's really not very much greenery around. It's only just starting. So she'll take full advantage of that. There we go, she's moved into a nice gap. Joey, so you can tell the difference between male and female giraffes using a few different things. The first is there's an obvious difference in size. Males are a lot bigger than the females, but probably the easiest, especially with a giraffe on its own, if you've got nothing to compare it to, is you can see that there's no testes hanging down in between her tail. There's also no penile sheath coming down off of her abdomen. You can see it's very flat. So that would be where the penile sheath hangs down for a male. So from that I can tell that it's a female, but also if you have a look at her head, which is currently unfortunately obscured by a branch, but I'll do my best anyway. On her head she's got two little horns. They're actually called ossicones. And at the top there's a little black tuft of hair. There you can see it quite nicely. So on a female the horns are quite small, they're close together, and there's a full black tuft of hair on the top. If you have a look at a male, those horns will be a lot thicker, they'll be wider apart, they'll be taller, and right on the top where that tuft of black hair is, they might have a little ring of black hair, but the top is actually completely balded. And that's because they use those horns for fighting where the females don't. So the top is just bare skin as opposed to a complete tuft. There you can see it beautifully, that black little tip on those horns. So that would be the most obvious difference, especially because sometimes you don't have a clear view of the rest of a giraffe. You might only see its head or its neck. Then you would look at those horns on the top of the head as opposed to looking for any of the external genitalia or a size difference. I love the way a giraffe walks. Very interesting that they walk both legs on the left and then both legs on the right, where a lot of other animals would walk opposite sides at the same time. Front left and back right, or front right and back left. And she has decided enough is enough for one camera day. Angelina, she looks, at my first glance, she looked quite young because she's not the biggest in terms of body. But when I had a closer look, she has got quite a few scars on her neck. So I would say she's probably, you know, the maximum in the wild for a giraffe would be maybe 25 years. I would say she's maybe 16 to 20, somewhere there. Probably closer to 16 though, because she's not looking thin. She was in very, very good condition. So I would say about there, because she has got a decent amount of scarring on her neck. Isn't it incredible how well she blends in with all of these branches in the front? If she wasn't moving, you wouldn't actually see her. With the naked eye, you actually can't see her. So luckily we have the camera with its zoom. Yep, she has definitely had enough of the camera. So she's actually moving down towards a little, almost like a riverbed, a drainage line. There might be a few more leaves and things growing there compared to where we are now. So where we are is actually on the crest of a hill on the cut line. And so it's quite dry up here because there's less water available. Down in the drainage line though, there will be still some water that's accumulated underground, even if the river isn't flowing, with some more green leaves. Alright, so I'm going to keep going, see if I can find you some cats for today, and we will leave that giraffe to head on towards the drainage line.
My name is Nomfundo Ndlovu and I'm the Senior Project Manager for the WISA Schools and Youth Unit. I'm a qualified horticulturalist. I'm particularly passionate about supporting schools towards working through their sustainability journey and towards food sovereignty throughout food gardening projects. A typical day in my work involves me overseeing our national projects and creating an enabling environment for schools to thrive and succeed in working towards self-reliance and sustainability, and really ensuring that no school gets left behind.
We're in the center of the reserve. It's a much more open area, so a completely different experience. It's also in the afternoon, so just a little bit hot, shall we say. We're following some lion tracks, and then we found the scat of a lion cub. So we didn't see the lions, but we decided to leave the area. It was getting a bit too dense and a bit too thick. So we've come all the way down to the water hole to have a little break, and then we're going to keep walking and see what else we can find. And TJ himself actually reminded us at the start of the walk that when you're on the vehicle, it's all about observing. But when you're on a walk, it's all about immersing yourself in nature, being part of the ecosystem. And that's exactly what happened today.
Looks like it's a very difficult climb because every time it tries to climb, the ground is breaking, so it slides down. But it's the only one. Look at that. That is the call of desperation with the cub. It's like, what are you doing, mommy? Oops! Oof!
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
So we have managed to find waterbuck and impala. I just wanted to see if we could improve the view a little bit, and I think we might have managed to do that. And we are quite close to Ngala Tented Camp, just behind it. And there in the picture you can see a really beautiful waterbuck bull and some male impalas as well, with with all the males around here and the horns that you can see. Hopefully this setting will bring some luck for South African rugby later this morning. See them, how they associate with each other. Not too worried with the different species' presence. I think the waterbucks are more enjoying the impalas because of the fact that there are a few more around here to keep eyes and ears open. And it's interesting, the waterbuck are now feeding with the wind, but the impala is still feeding into the wind, which will help them pick up on any smells of predators in that direction, which I don't think there are too many around here, with the impalas being as relaxed as they are, as well as the waterbucks. Our plan is remaining the same. So I think what we'll do is we'll continue, but we are still checking our boundary this morning, potentially for any signs of the dogs. Haven't heard anything from anyone about anything else on the reserve, so it's quite cool that we're in our own area. We haven't seen another vehicle this morning, which is amazing. That's one of the lovely things about Ngala, is the fact that you don't tend to see too many other vehicles. Although the boundary road that we're going to drive on now is one of the main entrances to Kruger National Park and into Orpen Camp. So we might see a private vehicle along the road. Maybe we'll see a whole bunch of private vehicles stopped along the road, and then we'll know that they've spotted something. But this wind that's blowing in is, believe it or not, blowing in some cloud cover. It's not moving incredibly quickly, and it's not as thick as it was yesterday. So a question about which herbivore species is the most social. I think it's probably one of the animals that tends to form herds or aggregations. I think it's difficult to say which one I think is the most social, because they all will spend time with each other. Giraffe form big groups, although they don't have any social structures or bonds between them, so probably not them. Impalas are very social antelope. They tend to groom each other and spend lots of time together. I think it's more of a safety thing as well. But then you think of things like the migration in East Africa, where there's 2 million blue wildebeest or 2 million wildebeest together. And I mean, I've never been to East Africa, so I'm not sure how it works out there, but they seem pretty social considering the large number of them all grouped together. Out here I would say impala, more than likely. Things like bushbuck, you often see them on their own, so that would be excluded. Most of the smaller antelopes. This is a road on Ngala that's also not commonly driven, not because of the boundary, but because there's a terrible rocky section. So hopefully you won't be with us when we drive through that section. But for now, we're going to send you back to Tristan, who's also bumbling about.
Nick is trying to find wild dogs. We're trying to find a male leopard with a kill. We've got a drag mark going in here. It doesn't look like a very big drag mark. So I'm not sure if this leopard is even still here or if its kill's finished, but I'm just trying to see if I can spot it. I think the kill might be done. It's from during the night, but like I say, the drag is not very big, and we know male leopards can eat pretty quickly, so I wonder if he's not finished up whatever it was. But it's exactly where we had Mulawati yesterday, or Mulawati's tracks not had him. So it looked like exactly where I said he crossed into Arathusa, then it's coming out of the same place with the kill dragging across the road. But I can't find anything, and I've seen a steenbok and a dike. No sign of a kill anywhere here. Sorry, Morgan. just gonna run and leave it. So just wanted to
Welcome back. So I am on a little bumble towards Buffelshoek, and I'm hoping that I find 3 of the Talamati lionesses. That's a really good question. So they can definitely identify us as human. They can smell us as human. Obviously, it's a lot more clear when we are walking or on foot. Then it's definitely human, and humans to animals are a natural predator. So let me just stop to answer your question. So basically they can recognize us as human, especially on foot. But even in the vehicle, they can still smell us as human. When we're talking, they know that we're human. But on the vehicle, they're definitely more habituated to kind of the vehicle as a whole not being a threat. So there is a slight difference. They can definitely still tell there are humans here. But on the vehicle, we seem to be less of a threat through that habituation over many, many years of safari. They've gotten used to the vehicles in particular. So when we're on foot, it's an entirely different story. Then we're again back to a natural predator. And I'm not sure what the link would be there, why that they would be more used to kind of the vehicles than just us on foot as people. But they can definitely still tell that there are people on the vehicle, even if, you know, it's an open vehicle like this. So it's a very interesting question. You can definitely see the difference in behavior when you're walking with animals as opposed to driving. They are much more relaxed when you're driving. That being said, you know, you can walk and have a sighting or an encounter with animals where they have no idea that you're even there, because you can, you know, use the wind and camouflage and cover and things like that, where they wouldn't even know that you are there. This is actually one of my favorite cut lines since I've been at Djuma. And I think it's because as you're driving, you're going over these crests and then down into the little dips of the drainage lines. And there's a lot of new life along these fire breaks that they burn on either side of the cut lines. So over the distance, that last crest is where I'm headed. And I'm really, really hoping that along the way I'll find something interesting as well. But I really want to go and see how the Talamatis are doing because of the interaction that they had with that S8 male, the Mbali male, the other day. They all scattered. So it seems like only 3 lionesses of the Talamati pride have been found this morning. I'd be very interested to see which 3 it is. Alright, so I'm going to keep going and hopefully I can find you something amazing to look at very soon. But I'm going to send you to Nick, who is also on a bumble.
Crossing fingers for Tessa's search, and hopefully Tristan will come through with the male leopard tracks in the drag mark. It's always a nice find. It's always exciting because you know there's a pretty good chance of finding it, especially with a male leopard. Sometimes with female leopards you're a little bit less hopeful because if they don't hoist their carcasses, the hyenas will get to it. But we are still on the bumpy eastern boundary, and we're going to be hitting some more rocks relatively soon, so we'll just slow down when that does happen. Fortunately, no luck for us yet. It's quite windy down in this part of the reserve this morning, and the wind is actually, it's not blowing in a favourable direction for the dogs to have come back onto Ngala if they were there. We're not quite sure where they've been the last couple of days, but the only way we're going to find them is if we keep checking these boundary roads and keep checking the roads just inside, looking for any tracks or signs of them. One such sign might be scattered impalas and small little pockets of them all over the place. That's an indication that the wild dogs might have come and hunted through the area. But none of those signs yet this morning. It's really beautiful to see a different part of the property as well. It's nice and open. So, Lynn, the average size of a wild dog pack would vary for every single individual pack. I've seen packs of 2 animals in this part of the world, up to 40 animals. But I would say, if we had to make an estimation of the most common number, I'd say probably between maybe 6 and 12 adults. And then the amount of puppies will vary depending on how many the female gave birth to and how well they have done. I mean, you can imagine they're very vulnerable little wild dog puppies. But yeah, in terms of adult packs, I'd say probably between 6 and 12 would be a good sized pack. There's one pack that I know of a little bit further north of us that I think at one stage was almost 40 individuals. There were about 15 young ones, but there were about 40 of them in total. So this is the very, very rocky section of the road. So I'm just going to go nice and slow here, but you'll see the camera bouncing from side to side. This is why we don't drive this road all that often. But when it's just myself and Gert, and hopefully all of you at home don't mind the camera shaking from side to side. The pack that we were looking for this morning, I think is, if I'm not mistaken, around 25 individuals. So I think there's 11 younger ones and then 14 adults. But I think the last time they were seen, there were 10 adults and 11 youngsters. So that also shows how sometimes if you're not driving through an area that you know and you don't know the makeup of the wild dogs, you might bump into 3 or 4 wild dogs and think it's a whole new pack, but little did you know that it was just 4 dogs that have gone missing from another pack. Hopefully that's the worst of the rocks this morning. It all depends on the species of animal. Some animals prefer more densely covered areas, things like kudus and nyala and leopard. They like to be secretive and move along thicker areas, maybe along the rivers. And then you think of things like cheetah and zebra and blue wildebeest that will prefer the more open areas. So it all depends on the given species. Elephants, rhinos, buffaloes, they'll move through sort of any area depending on where the food is and where the water is. But something like a cheetah would be an animal that would really only prefer wide open spaces, because they do fall at the bottom of the predator hierarchy. If they are spending too much time in thick areas, they might get ambushed by leopards or lions or hyenas alike. Whereas leopards, on the contrary, they do not like open areas, especially wild leopards. They like to be secretive, they like to hide, so they wouldn't like to be moving through very open areas like we're driving at the moment. Although there is a female leopard that we sometimes see down here, she's very unrelaxed. So even if you see her from 100 meters away, as soon as you put your vehicle tires off the road, she will jump out the tree or off the termite mound and run away. we're going to check down this eastern boundary and maybe pop past a few of the permanent watering holes that we have. And that's our plan from here.
Welcome back. I'm just about to go through another little drainage line dip in the cut line. So hopefully my signal stays with me. But if it does dip, it'll be back soon. So I'm still on my mission to go and find some lionesses from the Talamati Pride. Definitely been some buffaloes that crossed here. A lot of mess left in the road. Not very fresh though. Good few days old.
Okay.
Definitely a beautiful morning to be out in the bush. Clouds have started building though. Maybe we'll get some more rain. Welcome back to my bumble. I'm headed towards 3 lionesses of the Talamati Pride. Hopefully they are still there. I would think that they are. The wind has started picking up considerably again, and we've got some clouds building. We started off with a clear sky this morning. And now it seems that we have got quite a lot of clouds building. The temperature is dropping, which means I'm hoping the predators might become a bit more active as the day goes on. Brandon, yes, I do think dark mane will try and come back to the pride. It's not like a lion to just give up. That being said, if there is constant pressure coming in from the S8 males and the Mbali male, then of course it will have to get to a point where he has to decide either I stay or I leave. But safety in numbers for a lion, so he would definitely try and get back to the pride. It would be very interesting to see the dynamics changing though. Maddie, no, nobody has seen the Mbali male or the S8 male recently, not since the incident the other day, as I'm now calling it. We don't know where he is. He's probably still in this general area because this is the territory that he is trying to take over. So it would make sense that he is around. We haven't seen any tracks of him. We don't know where he's ended up. The last I heard was when we were last with him, he was still heading west towards Arathusa kind of area. Alright, so we are approaching the sighting now. It's going to be very interesting to see which of the Talamati lionesses these are. And where the rest of the pride is. We have not seen them. Ah, beautiful. Oh, I'm so excited. Alright, so we've got 3 lionesses. They're actually all looking quite alert at this point. And that could be because the wind is picked up, and so it's always worth being extra careful. Don't they look so stunning in this morning's golden light? Danica, yes, I do think so. I think if the dark mane male comes back towards the pride, it's even more motivation for Mbali male and the S8 males to come in and kind of assert their dominance again. So they've really been pushing a lot in the last 2 months. And I think with this most recent incident, just the way that the dark mane male reacted, you know, with dark mane running away with the rest of the pride, clearly showed that he feels as though that dominance has been overthrown a bit, that he feels threatened by this male. As opposed to standing and fighting, the reaction of the entire pride was to move in the opposite direction very quickly. So yes, I think if he comes back into this area, it's even more reason for Mbali male to come back with force. So the lionesses can definitely hear something that's coming from kind of behind me, but they're not particularly, they don't look like they're going to get up and move towards it. It's more like they're just trying to gather information on what is happening. The direction that they are staring in is actually the direction that the carcass was in. And so it could be that they're hearing hyenas, maybe just a bit of crunching on bones. Maybe they're still looking for the purple-eyed lioness, the one that was injured. Or they might just be listening out for the rest of the pride, because they might come back to the same area to try and find each other. So pride would normally accept a new male Renate, and that's because, you know, with the lionesses, the basic instinct is to protect yourself and your cubs at all costs. So if that means accepting a new male, then you would accept a new male. That being said, you know, I have seen it happen, especially with the Birmingham Pride, where, you know, new males are pushing and the lionesses are actually pushing back. And that would normally only be because there are younger cubs in the area, and those younger cubs are vulnerable. As a new male takes over, it's very, very likely that he's going to kill the cubs so that he's ended the bloodline of the other male, and his genes can be passed on instead. So that encourages the lionesses to mate again, to come back into estrus. And so if the lionesses have power, if there's a lot of them and they've got a really good reason to fight back, they definitely will. But in general, the lionesses will accept a new male into the pride if the male has been overthrown, because that means that they'll survive, and hopefully they'll have cubs that will survive as well. It's also a matter of, you know, strength, because if you've got the strength to overthrow the male, that means that your cubs are going to have stronger genes or be stronger in general. And so that's also a better kind of long-term survival strategy than sticking with the male who might be older with maybe weaker genes running through the cubs' bloodlines. That being said, I would not pick a fight with a lioness that had cubs on any day, because a basic motherly instinct is protect them at all costs. So I am actually a little bit surprised to see them back so close to the carcass. That being said, they might just be looking for the rest of the pride. Jennifer, yes, I agree. Darkmane was incredibly fast in his escape. He exited at the speed of light just about. So yes, it was a very, very incredible sighting. For me, I'd never seen lions react so swiftly in the opposite direction. It was just mind-blowing to see how fast they evaporated into thin air just about. That being said, they look nice and relaxed and slow today, but you never know. You never know what will happen. They've heard something again, now slightly further to their left, so you'll see their attention is turned there. I think this is the smaller part of the pride that's split off. And I think the majority of the pride, the other females and sub-adults, have actually moved off further to the west. So I think this is the smaller majority, and I'm looking at the female on the right, and I think she might be the purple-eyed Injured Lioness. But I'll have a better chance to give her a proper look just now.
If you are a WildEarth explorer, then we are excited to announce that there is another unique prize for you to win. Sign up to be an explorer before the 16th of October 2021, and you and a friend could be heading off to an eco-training ranger experience. This 2-night opportunity offers a living and learning adventure where you will combine seeing incredible nature with gaining knowledge on how animals live in the wild. You will approach dangerous game on foot, learn how to track, do some 4x4 driving, and have an exclusive opportunity to join the WildEarth team behind the scenes on the live show. After each action-packed day, you will relax around the campfire and listen to the nighttime choir of animal sounds before you drift off to sleep. WildEarth Explorers, it's in your nature.
We had a very exciting start to our morning this morning. Today, it's our guided sunrise safari with Mike, and we started by looking at the moon through a telescope, which was incredible. It's been a very different drive from all the other ones, very interactive.
Uropigeal gland is something the hoopoes have in common.
Hi. This morning's drive with Mike was thoroughly enjoyable. He really engaged us, but we also did some birding, and I managed to add a few new birds onto my list. Overall, every single experience with all the competitors has been really incredible, but it's up to the judges now.
So it definitely seems like the two lionesses on the left, oh, there we go, she's just gotten up, are much more interested in what's actually happening around them. They're alert, they're awake. And in fact, the one off to the right, that's the purple-eyed lioness that got injured by the hyenas recently. It's the first time she's actually properly lifted her head for more than a few seconds to look around. So she is still looking quite thin. By the time she got to the carcass to feed, there wasn't an awful lot of food left. But at least she is back with some of the lionesses of the pride. And it's the first time that she's really, since I've been here, kind of looked around and listened and smelled. I'd be very interested to see if she gets up what her condition is, especially with those wounds on her back legs and her hips. But for now, she does look very, very comfortable. Would also be interesting to see how long it takes for them to join up with the rest of the pride. So I know that there have been quite a few splits happening within the Talamati pride recently. There were some lionesses that had already mated with the Mbali male. Robin, they might eat again. Her in particular, I think she would definitely eat again within the next few days. The other lionesses are still quite full. They've got decently sized bellies. And yeah, I don't think they need to eat, but if something presents itself, they might go for it. They are very out in the open though, so it's a very small chance of something not knowing that they're here or not seeing them if they walk past. All predators are opportunistic, so if something presents itself, it's worth trying. But you can see that lioness, her stomach is still very full. So she's not in need of a meal as much as the purple-eyed lioness is. Right, so we're going to just kind of sit here for a little bit, listen out for sounds, any other sounds of predators or anything like that in the area, and just soak in the presence of the lionesses here. Looks like it's time to start a little bit of grooming. The lioness on the left has been yawning. She's been starting to lick her paws and give herself a bit of a groom. And that typically means in lions it might be time to start moving, whether they might move to shade or actually move back towards the area of the carcass. I'm not sure. But I think it has a lot to do with the weather, with the clouds building up and with that wind getting stronger. They're actually not panting, they're not hot. So So there's no need to really move to shade. In fact, they might get a little bit more active. Izzy, the injured lioness, she might be able to hunt by herself if it's smaller things. When we saw her at the carcass, she was walking okay. She didn't look like she was, very badly impaired in her back legs with those injuries. The difference is she's quite weak at the moment. She's very thin. She's weak. She's lagging behind the back of the pride. So it would be difficult for her to build up the speed and strength to take down something big. Something small, though, she might still be able to hunt. But luckily, that is one really big advantage with lions in particular, is living in a pride. She knows that she can count on the pride to provide food. And so if she can stick with them or lag just behind them if she's feeling tired, there's a decent chance she'll still get some food. You can see, though, that she hasn't had a lot of food because she was lagging so far behind. By the time she got there wasn't very much meat left, but there was still enough to just keep her going. Her profile is very different to the profile of the other lionesses in the pride because of how thin she is at the moment. She is the only lioness in this pride that has a dip where her belly is. And you can see it very clearly in that image. It hollows out in her stomach instead of bulging. You'll probably also notice in the next while that she'll be a lot more sleepy than the other lionesses. She won't be as alert, and that's the body's natural reaction to spending as little energy as possible so that more energy can go towards healing and trying to get her body back on track. If she's more active, it's going to take longer to heal. You'll probably also find with open wounds she's fighting an infection as well. There's a lot of bacteria and things in this environment. As much as she is well adapted to fight them, it does take a fight from her body to get rid of infection in very large open wounds. That lioness has still been very fixed on one spot. And catching flies. Mark, these lionesses are very beautiful. They are actually particularly striking. I've seen a lot of lions in my life, but these do tend, or they seem to me to be a lot more sleek and beautiful than a lot of the lionesses that I've seen. Their coats are in excellent condition as well. Alright, so while I sit here and watch these lovely ladies resting up, let's have a look at the penguin show that will be coming up. Welcome back to our lovely lionesses of the Talamati Pride. I'm actually just moving around a little bit so we can get a slightly different angle on them. See if we can get them all in one shot there. Beautiful. So, while we get comfortable in our new position here with the lionesses, I'm going to send you back over to Tristan, and I'll see you just now.
At the moment, I'm just watching a steenbok. I had a little bit of technical difficulty that we had to sort out, so I had to come back to camp. We also found where that male leopard had gone. He kind of ate whatever it was. Like I said, it was something very small, so maybe a little steenbok like what we're looking at, or a scrub hare, and finished it, and then has crossed into the south, has gone back towards Hoffman's Arethusa side, unfortunately. And then we had an issue, so we came back, and now we're with the resident male steenbok on quarantine. He's probably the most relaxed steenbok that we have out here. That's why we get to kind of stop and actually have a look at them. Most of them want absolutely nothing to do with people and typically run away and try and distance themselves. But this little guy is always happy just to let us film him and kind of spend some time. And that's because he got so used to us, more than actually the vehicles, he got used to us on foot. When we used to do bushwalks here at Djuma for WildEarth, we used to end up walking across quarantine every single morning and afternoon twice, sometimes even more than that. And so this little guy saw us walking up and down and started to get relaxed with that, and then slowly but surely with the vehicles as well. So it's nice that we have him. Unfortunately, his mate was extinguished by a pack of wild dogs earlier this year, which he hasn't managed to find a new one yet. I'm hoping, though, that he will. Even though they typically are paired together for life, when the one gets lost, then they will seek out another partner in order to breed. Such beautiful little animals, though. You know, I think we often overlook a lot of our antelope species. You know, impala are always overlooked, that's for sure. But these guys and little duiker and things like that, they don't seem to get nearly as much attention as everybody else out here. Us as humans have this weird thing where if it's not dangerous, we don't care for it as much as we do when it is dangerous. So it's a bit sad that sometimes that we are that way. I think it's always good to appreciate everything out here because they all make up the ecosystem, and without them, everything seems to fall apart. So need to appreciate the little ones as well. And these guys are actually quite amazing creatures. As much as they look quite small and fragile, when you see the places that they can survive, it's amazing. So Dwayne, the smallest species of antelope in this area theoretically could be Sharp's Kruisbok, but Sharp's Kruisbok we don't see in this area. Well, there's only been one recorded sighting this year that I know of, and it was just outside of the reserve, funny enough, on the Manuleti fence line. So Sharp's Kruisbok in the Kruger system is the smallest antelope, but in reality for us here in the Sabi Sands, the smallest antelope that we see regularly is these guys, the little steenbok. And it's hard to see a sense of scale with this particular little antelope because there's not really anything around it that gives you scale. But they are tiny, and that's probably the size of a long-legged Jack Russell dog. In fact, maybe even a little bit smaller than that. So it's not a particularly large animal, but it's certainly, it's, like I say, quite unique in its ability to very, very arid areas and its ability to be exceedingly fast. That's why out here really the cheetah are the biggest problem for them and wild dogs. Everything else is pretty Pretty much too slow. Leopard get it right every now and then, but for the most part they miss these guys. It's really the cheetah that have the speed and the dogs that have the numbers to catch these little steenbok and pick them up. So pretty impressive little animals. It always amazes me you find them in the Kalahari desert where it's so dry. It's incredible that they survive there. Alright, so I think we're going to carry on. We'll see what else we can find and see what else is lurking on the reserve on a windy morning. So we're going to just leave our little steenbok now. We're going to just allow a vehicle to come past us so that we're not in the way, because we were parked across the road. So we'll let our little steenbok go that side and just say, "Morning, Papa, how are you?" No. Oh, really? Oh, awesome. Okay, awesome. Thanks, Papa. Yeah, we were. Cool, thanks. So Pippa, who owns Djuma with Yuri, is just telling us that Darkmane is right here. We had no idea he was even here. So we'll go and have a look at that, I think, to see what he's doing. My favorite line. I was saying to Morgan today, I have this feeling Darkmane's going to pop out somewhere. One should always trust one's gut, Morgan. Darkmane. Yep. Well, the guests at Tumbeta are going to be happy, or Ali will be happy, and Taylor. Guests from the company that we have are here, so they're going to have a male lion in front of the camp the whole day today, which is quite pleasant for them. Morgan, are you excited?
I'm so excited.
So excited. Morgan's very excited, everybody. He loves Darkmane. Favorite line. So I'm excited to show Morgan Darkmane today. It
might be my favorite animal in the whole reserve.
Your favorite animal in the whole reserve? Really? Even a hardy dog. Sure, that's high up, because I know hardy dogs in your top 5.
Oh, yeah.
So that's amazing. Okay, well, we're gonna try and find Darkmane and see where he is. See if he's hanging out somewhere here to figure out what he's going to get up to. I can actually see him from here already. Just got to try and find a nice spot to go in. Just waving to Tundi. Hello, Tundi. All right, let's get into position and see what he's up to. Well, guys, we have found Darkmane. I think it's Darkmane. We'll check now. We got told Darkmane was here. He's sitting at the hide at Tumbeta. Is it him? Yeah, it is Darkmane. Hello, boy. Welcome back to Djuma. Your little jaunt down towards Londolozi didn't last very long. He's sitting, like I say, at the hide at Djuma. I'm sure he's going to go and drink there at some point. So the guests that are staying here are about to get very spoiled. Sorry, Morgan. My apologies.
I forgive you.
Thank you. Morgan is so excited about seeing Darkmane that I don't want to ruin his shot, and I rolled absolutely forward there and, made it rock the camera, but just wanted to apologize to Morgan. But he's got his head up, which is... Morgan, you're full of beans today, aren't you? Morgan's saying it's overwhelming that his head is up. We know Darkmane loves a nap, but I think he's probably watching the staff that have been at Tumbeta. They're busy kind of cleaning up there and doing the rooms and the pool and stuff, so probably why his head's up at the moment. But like I said, it's going to be nice for the guests there. They're going to have a hide and a water hole, and he's probably going to come in at some point. So it'd be nice if that's the case. I reckon he's going to provide some entertainment for the day. I don't think he'll go very far. I think he's going to end up probably resting. He's got his nice little bit of shade right there. I wonder where he came from, because I didn't even see his tracks. You know, I drove down towards where it must have come up Twin Dams Road, because we didn't check there. I don't actually know how he got here. Must have taken a slightly different route to the way that we drove. You know, his tracks are not difficult to see. They're very, very large. He's not a small individual, this. So you don't miss his feet. As much as he's not the most active cat, he's certainly not the smallest of individuals, and he's actually got quite an impressive mane these days. I'll give him credit for that, and he's done quite well in terms of raising those Talamatis and keeping them safe. We were talking earlier about lions' roles and protecting cubs and things like that, and leopards. But, you know, he's done very well in providing a safe haven for the cubs to grow up, and he's done that a lot by making a lot of noise. So one thing he does do is he does roar at night quite a lot, and so his roaring is what's keeping S8 and others at bay, or was keeping them at bay. I think after this last little interaction, S8, if he hears him, will know that he can challenge him and push him off. The fact that Darkmane kind of ran the way that he did in the Talamatis too is going to indicate that Desmane will probably feel like he has a bit of an ascendancy now. So that roaring and chemical signature that he was leaving by urinating and patrolling is going to be eroded slowly by the advancement of S8, especially with the females coming into estrus. He wouldn't be surprised, starts to push more and more for south and starts to challenge Darkmane a lot more. Shame, boys, it's been a long couple of days. Looks good though. He obviously ate really well at that buffalo carcass, so he's looking fit and healthy. And so he'll just become, well, actually, this one of two options can happen. The first, or three, sorry. He can, firstly, the least favorite option would be that he actually gets killed if he gets overthrown, and therefore will not do anything. But the other two options are a little bit more bright and cheerful. The one is that he'll go nomadic and try and find another area that he can potentially either dominate. Because remember, he's not old lion. He's just got a damaged front paw, but his body is actually in good condition, and he's not old at all. He's 7-8 years old, so in his prime. So maybe find another area that he can potentially dominate, or another pride. If that failure to do that, would be the other option would be that he gets incorporated back into the group with his two brothers, so Blondie and Mohawk, that are within Kahumas, and comes a coalition with them. Again, that's the other option that he's got. Well, I mean, I say option, but the other scenario that could potentially pay out. And actually, the scenario could be that he wanders and picks up a younger male, and they form a coalition, and he's able to then kind of dominate with that. With that extra member. So that also has happened before. Older males kind of moving off and coming across younger ones and then joining to make a little coalition together for safety in numbers. So yeah, there's a couple options. In this case, what's going to happen is anyone's guess. I don't think we really know how it's going to play out. The fact that he didn't run towards his brothers and join them immediately tends to suggest that that behavior is not going to take place. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens. You know, he's come back to Central Djuma, so it's he obviously still feels like this is his. If he was a male that was still on the run, he wouldn't have come back here so quickly. So yeah, let's see how he handles it. You know, at some point he's going to have to stand up for himself, or he's going to have to turn tail and run in and vacate this area. And what happens then is going to be, like I say, multiple different options. Nice to see the wind blowing in his mane, though. Seems like it's a sleepy lion day all around. Harley, quite far. What's happened to my map? That's not nice. I had a map in here and it's gone. Well, basically from here, if we had to draw a dead straight line north, like dead straight line north, I would say probably, what do you reckon, Morgan, 2 kilometers? Yeah, 1.5, 2 kilometers from where we are. straight north, past Gari Dam, past Vuurtele, Gallego, keep going up, and then you get towards a pan called Kaiki Piring, and then it's north of Kaiki Piring, just before Triple Pan, is where that buffalo carcass is. So, I would imagine that he's not going to head that way, and that carcass is done. There's really nothing for lions to go for. The 3 females that we saw this morning, they were seen with S8 crossing into Djuma, and they went past that buffalo carcass, because when I left them and I was leaving Buffelshoek to swap out with Tess because she had the better signal, I saw the tracks coming from that carcass straight down that road. So there will be absolutely nothing there now. I doubt there's even leg bones, and the skull might even be detached by now. The whole of yesterday and even this morning, there'll be vultures that'll be trying to clean it up. So I don't think he's going to go there. But in terms of how far he's walked away from the carcass, it's about 1.5 kilometers. I would say 2, somewhere there, which is very, very, very short distance for a lion. If he had to run, he would get there in 15 minutes. Why are you laughing, Morgan? If he had to run, no, that's a long shot. Sorry, Darkmane, Morgan's making fun of your running today. You can actually see quite clearly how that leg is damaged when you look at it from this angle. You see that massive step in that front right paw. So that's where the leg is the bone is reset at a funny angle. If you look at the paw in the front, you see it's a much smoother gradient from paw to leg, whereas the one on the right is looking rather steep and swollen still. Interestingly enough, though, when they killed that buffalo, Taylor was telling me that it was Darkmane that actually was the one that jumped on him and pulled him down from the neck and face area, and then actually killed it. The females were all on the back, but it was him that kind of tackled the business end. So it just goes to show, when adrenaline's pumping, that he's still able to do whatever it takes to bring down big, heavy animals, as well as, potentially defend his territory. All right, well, while Darkmane starts to have a nap, we'll just be patient and see if he maybe goes for a drink at the pan behind us. Alright, so we're still with us. Unfortunately, Ngala seems to have had a little bit of a tech issue, so you're back here with the Darkmane. He's just flopped over to have a bit of a nap, so I'm sure he's going to just sleep and take it very easy. Morgan, you're alright there, you don't have a branch in front of his face. No, you're okay. How is that comfortable? Have you ever slept on a downhill?
It's a strange angle.
It's a very strange angle. But can you sleep like that?
I definitely can't.
No, me neither. Sleeping on a downhill is really not a pleasant experience. It feels like all this blood is rushing to your head, and then there's like pressure there, and also it's just not a comfortable thing. So I don't know how lions do it. If it was the other way around, sleeping uphill I can do, but sleeping downhill not. Yeah, Morgan's nodding in agreement here. He's like, downhill no good, uphill all good.
Flat even better.
Flat even better. Yeah. With a soft pillow. Do you like soft pillows or medium pillows or hard pillows?
In between.
In between, so medium. That's what medium means. Or are we in between soft and medium and medium and hard?
Medium to soft.
Medium, so in between?
Yeah.
Okay. So Morgan is very confused about how to describe his pillow here, everybody. Anyway, we'll sit with Darkmane for the rest of the morning and see what he gets up to.
the scribe collected a dry grass, put it next to the water hole as the hippo walks down during the warm of the day to drink the water. When the hippo arrives, he saw quite a very nice grass, an area not to resist to rest. And when the hippo went down to drink the water, and when he finished the water, he just lied down on the grass. And then, that was the opportunity of the scribe. You know what? Today is my day to pay the revenge.
I've seen something I've never seen here before. Look at these cubs. One is crossing the river. It's being washed away, unfortunately, but I'm sure the mother is going to save her. Look at that. How beautiful. Look at that. One crossing, two to go.
Not much has changed with Darkwing. He is now solidly on his side and looks as though he's settling in for the day. He'll eventually move from that spot, though the sun will eventually creep round and start hitting him in the face. And I always find when lions start to get sun in their eyes is when they decide, nah, that's it, I've had enough, I'm going to move. So let's see what he does, but hopefully he's going to just have a little kind of nap there and spend most of the day. It will be nice if he actually is here this evening, because I'm intrigued to see whether he makes a noise or not. Normally he roars, and this morning there was nothing from him, not a peep. So I don't know if that's an indication of that he's a little nervous to make a noise here, or if it's just that he didn't feel like it this morning and tonight he will. But I think we'll find out this evening whether or not he feels the need to make a little bit of a noise and shout and try and show everybody that he is the boss. Still. Amazing though to see how quickly they digest. You look at his stomach now, you wouldn't think that he ate a buffalo 2 days ago. Oof, Billy. This is probably the wrong question to be asking me, of all people. My favorite thing about lions. I'm taking. It's not that bad. No, I honestly, I do enjoy lions at times. I think my favorite thing about lions would probably be the social aspect, the bonds that they have as a pride, and how they work together in order to provide for themselves and protect and to be able to find the food that they have to do. And the hunting that they do is pretty spectacular to watch when these lions are all kind of figuring out where to go and those subtle cues that they have. So I think that would probably be my favorite part, is that there's these very strong social bonds between them. And then their roar would be the other favorite part of lions. That's one thing I'll give them, is that they can roar, and they do it very, very well. And they also can sleep very well. So I think those would be my three favorite things about lions. Is that, the sleeping part's not really a favorite thing, but it's a jealousy thing. I'm jealous that they can sleep the way that they can. I wish I could sleep as well as they do.
Even on a downhill.
Even on a downhill, exactly, Morgan. It should make life a lot easier. Can you imagine? I mean, sometimes the beds that we sleep on here have a downhill, so it would be nice to, be able to have that ability. But my go-to pillow. So for those of you that didn't hear earlier, we were talking about pillows, and Morgan was very all over the show with his pillow description. If he had asked me to buy him a pillow, I would have had no idea what pillow to buy. Very unique pillow. My pillow preference, I like medium, but it must be puffy. It can't be like one of those flat ones, It's got to be, It's got to have some volume to it. No one likes a flat pillow. Then it feels just like you're lying on the bed without a pillow.
You don't have to get a second one.
The second ones are good for when you're reading and for when you're watching series, but it's not good for sleeping. I always then wake up feeling like the pillow is shifted, not quite optimal comfort.
I don't know how to read, so...
You don't know how to read?
No.
Oh, that explains a lot. No wonder you don't know what your pillow is like. Maybe we should start with a dictionary and move up from there. Thesaurus for Morgan, everybody. If you wanted to get Morgan a present for Christmas or his birthday, now you know. A book. Doesn't matter if it's a children's one. He hasn't read one before, so it'll be fun. Preferable. The ABCs. With pictures. With pictures. No, I find pictures very distracting, Morgan. Ron, who's 9 years old, has probably read more books than Morgan, would like to know if Darkmane is going to ever fully recover from his injury. So, Ron, no. It's been 2 years, and so if he was going to recover, he would have already. What's happened is when that bone is broken, unlike with humans where we go to a surgeon or to a doctor and they will realign everything and they make everything in nice and kind of straight and it fixes itself nicely and you're able to move. With him, it hasn't had that, so his bone is settled in a funny way and rehealed that way, which will mean that he'll always have some semblance of a limp. But with Darkmane, a lot of people, when he first walks, he looks terrible. It looks like he needs a walking stick, and he looks as though he's not going to do anything. But if you see him after he's walked for 10-15 minutes, while there is a little bit of a limp, it's not nearly as noticeable, and he actually looks quite strong. And if you watch the video of him actually bringing that buffalo down, there's no hindrance there in being able to wrestle with that buffalo. So as much as he has the injury and it's not going to go away, the injury is bad when he's cold, but when he starts to warm up and his foot gets warm, and it's like I don't know if you've ever done any sport, but you stretch and you do a warm-up run, and then you start to be able to play, and it's much better for your body. And it's the same for him. Once he starts to walk a little bit, he stretches it out, he's able to get the blood flowing through the leg, then he starts to walk a lot better and is actually okay. And he can even run. It's not like he's completely damaged that he won't be able to survive, so he'll be all right. I think he's gonna still live a while longer. In terms of whether he'll dominate here, I think that's what's under threat. I don't think it's his life so much as that whether or not he's going to be able to hold dominance over this section. It's more the question. Oh, Izzy is joining in the pillow banter. Well, wonderful, Izzy. Thank you for your question. Feather or synthetic? So here's my thing about feather pillows. A feather pillow can be comfortable, but then every now and then you get that little spike that comes through and then pokes you in the face, and that's not great. So synthetic is
very good for allergies.
It's not good if you have a feather allergy. No. So you're definitely not a feather man, are you?
No.
Yeah, I can see you shaking your head. You're like, feathers with disgust. Morgan's a synthetic. Apparently he told me he's also not a natural skincare product person. He's a chemicals all the way. He says he doesn't mind if he grows a third ear, he'll be fine with it. So I think synthetic for me too. I find feather ones just that poke in the ear every now and then, or the cheek, is just not so great. I prefer not being stabbed by feathers. And it's also, when I lie on a feather pillow, I just think of like Egyptian geese, and then I can't sleep. I'm just like, no, there's like the attack of the Egyptian geese with their little feathers, and even though they're not the ones that make those, that's where my mind goes.
Start hearing them.
Then you hear them, and then it's just all downhill from there,
Like Darkmane.
Like Darkmane, exactly. Oh, Morgan, you're so witty. Are you sure you've never read a book?
Picture books, yeah.
Picture books. Okay, here's another one. Feather duvet or normal duvet? Because feather duvets are good.
Feather duvets are good.
Yeah, I think feather duvet, synthetic pillow. That's where I'm going.
Take the allergies with the duvet.
Yeah, I'll take the allergies with the duvet, yeah. Okay.
Occasional stab.
Well, you can use chemicals to combat the allergies. Don't worry. Anyway, this is a ridiculous conversation, but it is what it is. So I'll carry on with Darkmane in the meantime. Let's send you to test with some giraffe. Or Nick with giraffe, I'm not sure. Either one.
With giraffe.
So welcome back, everybody. Sorry we've been gone for so long. We've had a few technical issues with our signal, but we have managed to find a couple young male giraffes, one feeding and another one looking at us, and then the third one looking off into the distance. We did check the whole southern part of the reserve. Unfortunately, no tracks or signs of the pack of African wild dogs coming back in, so they must still be just off Ngala, and no real other interesting animals that we found down in the south. One nice big herd of Wildebeest, but it was just in a poor signal area, unfortunately. But thankfully we have managed to find these giraffe, and you can see one feeding, and as we arrived, these two on the left-hand side of the picture were actually busy having a bit of a practice fight where they were necking. There we go, you can see the younger one sort of rubbing his head against the other one now. And they're not very mature giraffe bulls, so they're not going to be fighting over any females yet, but it's just a bit of practice for what lies ahead. See how this male's really bringing his head quite low down and trying to hit the other giraffe, base of the neck and even under the legs. Derek is asking about giraffes and feelings in their ossicones. So it's a bone on top of the head, and it's quite a solid bone. I'm not 100% if they feel it. I'll try to see if I can read up about it and get back to you. But you can imagine any part of your body where you've got bone, I'm sure it can feel, but I don't know if it'll hurt it when it uses those ossicones because they are solid. But I'll try to see if I can find out and potentially get back to you on that. But Joe, you can see as well between their eyes as well, there's that prominent pointy bone as well that just protects their head a little bit when they do swing their neck from side to side like this. See the magic quarry's blowing as well. The wind is still blowing this morning. It's not going away anytime soon. When we started off this morning, it was crystal clear blue skies, no wind. So I don't know where this weather has come from, but it is what it is. See quickly if we can maybe I was thinking of maybe trying to reposition our vehicle, but if we just wait a minute or two, they might walk out into the open for us, but we'll see how that goes for now.
This wind is definitely coming out of nowhere, Nick, so I completely agree. I am back with the 3 Talamati lionesses, and they seem to also be moving around a little bit. They've changed position, and so one is now almost on the road, and the others are just relaxing. Interestingly, the purple-eyed lioness has not moved at all. She's still lying in the exact same position she was earlier. And it is actually getting incredibly cold, so I wouldn't be surprised if they moved somewhere a little bit more sheltered just now as the wind keeps picking up, maybe down into one of the drainage lines. You can just see a little bit of the injured section on the purple-eyed lioness at the moment. Just on the back of her hip you can see the darker section, and that's the biggest open wound that she's got at the moment. It is looking a lot cleaner than it was yesterday. You can see though that the hair down the back of her leg is still wet. That's where it's been bleeding. and where they've been trying to groom her, I'm sure. I think she's definitely enjoying the heat of the sun in between the clouds at the moment. Be interesting to see what these lionesses do throughout the day. For now, it's just nice to sit with them and watch. Right, so I am still sitting with the Talamati lionesses. They've repositioned themselves a little bit, but still just enjoying a bit of the sun. Nick mentioned that the wind has picked up out of nowhere. I completely agree. It's getting windier by the second, it feels like. So I wouldn't be surprised if these lionesses move to try and shelter themselves a little bit later. For now, the sun is still quite warm, so that should help. There's definitely still one alert lioness at all times, it seems, with these three. But we're still in the same position that we were earlier. And the two healthier lionesses have moved around a little bit, but the purple-eyed lioness is still sleeping. Adam, my most memorable lion sighting, that is actually a very tough question. There have been a lot of incredible lion sightings. I think the one that really sticks out in my mind actually wasn't when I was guiding. It was when I was on holiday with my family in the southern section of Kruger Park. And we were watching impalas jumping down into a riverbed from the reeds on the side. And out of nowhere, a leopard actually came out and killed an impala, and all of a sudden these lions came out of nowhere and had a fight with this leopard and chased it off and stole the impala kill. And it was just, to me at the time, it was mind-blowing. It was probably at least 10, 12, 15 years ago, somewhere there. I was quite young, but it sticks out in my mind as this incredible sighting because these lions came out of nowhere. And the bloodbath that ensued was just quite unbelievable. But I've had my fair share of incredible lion sightings. I've seen them hunting. I think probably the more special ones, though, are also just, meeting lion cubs for the first time. I was very lucky to meet quite a few different sets of lion cubs that were still very young at Ngala. And obviously, meeting the white lions, the first time I saw the white lion cubs, probably, I think I was in tears actually. It probably sticks out as well as one of the biggest moments of my life with lions. So you can see with the positioning here that purple-eyed lioness really hasn't moved. Lily, so from what we can gather, the rest of the pride seems to be west. So where we last left them after the incident that same night, they were heading west. They still seem to be around that area. There have been tracks of them there, but we're not really sure exactly where they've gone. I know that Tristan has found Dark Mane, which is really exciting. At least we know where he is. But I'm really not sure where the rest of the Talamati pride is. I know that there have been some interesting dynamics that have been happening within the pride of them splitting in different directions and into smaller groups. So it would be very interesting if there is an overthrow in dominance to see if the rest of the pride kind of comes back together, and if those smaller groups that have split end up coming back into one. It is quite common for lion prides to split and then find themselves again. But speaking of dark mane, let me send you back over to Tristan and you can get an update over there.
No one knows where the rest of the pride is. I don't think even Darkmane knows where the rest are. That sounds like maybe they're up in Manyaleti, but we haven't found any tracks of them in the west or here. So it must be that side. Maybe they went up out through the gate area into the Manyaleti, that side. We'll just have to try and ask the guys in the north if they've found anything. But you can see Darkmane is perked up. And the reason he's perked up is because there was the mention of snacks. Morgan here was feeling very, very peckish. And so, you know, he clicked his fingers and basically shouted for Ali to bring down a muffin for him. So we had the choice of muffin or lemon drizzle cake. Morgan, what did you choose?
Well, that's not actually how it happened.
You chose cappuccino muffin, didn't you?
I was very excited over the lemon.
No, I didn't get excited over a lemon drizzle cake. But over there, you can see there's the hide. And inside there is Ali. And there is Morgan's muffin waiting for him. So we'll go and my little lemon drizzle cake and Ali having coffee. So we'll go over there and get ourselves a little tea snack. In 5 minutes, but I think Darkmane got jealous that Morgan was going to get a little muffin and he was going to get nothing. So he is up and looking about in the hope.
Darkmane also seems like a lemon drizzle guy.
Do you think Darkmane's a lemon drizzle guy?
Yeah.
The only reason I went lemon drizzle is because you went cappuccino muffin, and life is all about variety. You would know that if you read books. X-Rang, I did see that you said that Morgan should get a pop-up book. I feel like Morgan's going to come away with a lot of things from this trip. Firstly, he's going to come away with a children's book on how to identify a lion. This is a male lion, by the way, just in case you didn't know.
Someone sent me the ID kit.
Oh, someone sent you an ID kit, so you know that now. Okay, wonderful. The second thing is that Morgan's going to come up with a pop-up book on how to learn his ABCs. And what we'll do is we'll do the pop-up book with all animals. So each letter will be an animal. So not only will you learn animals, but you'll learn about...
Well, that ID kit I was saying, it was a picture of male lion, and it said L is for lion.
There we go. Picture of a male lion and L is for lion. I'm going to go back a little bit because we have a branch right across his face, Morgan, which is...
I had to get someone to read what the lion was.
Really? Did you know what L was? Vaguely, okay. Well, I'm glad you're learning, Morgan. It's nice to have a competent cameraman on the back. Darkmane, I'm so sorry we've exposed you to this nonsense this morning, but, you know, it is what it is. This is what happens, you know, when we get together on a Saturday morning and talk absolute rubbish some of the time. Don't worry, everybody, we're back to normal wildlife now. We've gotten excited about our muffin and various other things, but by the time you get it, Morgan, it's going to be breakfast time anyway. Both of us have been talking about the fact that the Springbok rugby game is at a ridiculous time this morning, 9:05. It's not great. Tanashan, you're saying you absolutely love Darkmane? Well, I'm glad that you do. Darkmane's actually developed quite a following of late. I think I think a lot of people feel sorry for him in many ways because of his injuries and, you know, the fact that he kind of wanders around on his own a lot of the time. But he actually, like I say, I mean, I give him a lot of trouble, and we know that it's not my favorite animal and it's not my favorite cat, but I am big enough and man enough to admit that he's done very, very well for this area. You know, all things considered, he's raised cubs and he's done everything that a male lion is supposed to do. So in that regard, he's been a very successful male so far. And no one can really argue with that, no matter how much personally like or dislike an animal. When you objectively look at it, if a male lion is able to hold tenure to produce cubs and raise those cubs to pretty much adulthood like he's done, then he's done a really good job, and that makes him a pretty powerful force. And you know, the crazy part about it is he's probably raised more cubs just with the Talamatis than most of the 6 Mapogos raised with all the other lionesses that they mated with, which just goes to show you kind of how you measure success is not always by the behavior, but by the contribution to the species.
It's day 1 of the annual South African Guide of the Year competition, and our first foot into this competition this morning is all about tracks and signs.
We're going to call you in one at a time. Just look at it, the information will be there.
Our 5 guides have been tasked by the judges at figuring out who is what is who, and where they go in the bush.
Either Franklin or guinea fowl, but because of the volume of other deposits in the area, we went with guinea fowl.
Detailing the surrounding that you need to look out for tracks. The details is very important.
You are cheeky. That was a brave decision. Amber Eyes is... That is so magic. That was absolutely wonderful. Amber Eyes just gave that cub an enormous hug.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
I love being a cam-up for WildEarth. The animals coming right up close to you, especially like lions. Sometimes you get nervous, but you have to go with the flow. My favorite animal to film is the elephant because of how big it is. But when it's really up close to you, it's one animal that you would say, I really respect you.
Welcome back to the very lazy Talamati lionesses. So our 2 healthier lionesses have moved into the shade of a guari tree, but you can see down here on the left is still the injured lioness. I believe she is called the silver-eyed lioness, not the purple-eyed lioness. And it's actually very interesting to see, even through the heat at the moment, she still has not moved from the spot. And when the breeze has stopped, there really is quite a lot of heat beating down. But you can see that the whole of her back leg is still quite wet. You can actually see where she's been bleeding. So as she was walking around, it's obviously been bleeding, running down her leg. And the open wound up on the top of her hip. So this, she'll try and groom herself, but she might also have help from the other lionesses. It is looking a little bit better than it was when I last saw her. There's no fresh blood dripping down from the wound, which is good news. It means it might be healing slowly. But I would be very interested to watch her recovery and see how she's going. These animals are incredibly resilient. It's very interesting to me that she still hasn't even changed onto lying on the other side of her rib cage in the heat. Wanda, I'm sure she is in some pain. She doesn't look like she's in too much pain when she's walking or when she's sleeping like this, but you can imagine a big open wound is going to have quite a bit of throbbing pain coming through. She might also have a little bit of damage, maybe even to the bone or the base of the tail. And so I'm sure there is some pain associated with it. She does move slower than the others, so that would suggest that when she's walking she can definitely feel it. It is a very large open wound, so I'm sure she is in pain. Again, though, they are incredibly resilient, so, you know, living out here, it's survival of the fittest, and so she has to kind of get up and carry on, and, you know, sleeping like this just kind of allows her body to heal a little bit more as she's conserving her energy. She is quite lucky with this wind. It does mean that there might not be as many flies and things that would be attracted to that wound. And that's good news, because that would be very irritating for her to have flies landing on an open wound. Also, they could carry a lot of pathogens and bacteria, so that also wouldn't be the best news. But because lions are fairly clean animals, by cleaning the wound, by licking around the area, it's also going to help with a little bit of pest control in that sense, but also with the healing. So I'm happy that she's found some of the lionesses again, because they could also help in that sense to look after her and possibly help her groom it. So they're definitely enjoying a little bit of peace and quiet in this big open clearing. I'm pretty sure as it gets more towards lunchtime, these lionesses are going to move, and so she'll have to move and follow them if it does start getting a little bit too hot. So they might be right underneath the shade of guarri trees, or maybe go down towards the riverbed. So it'll be interesting to see where they actually end up towards the end of today and tonight, and how long it takes for them to find the rest of the pride. But I'm definitely enjoying being able to spend time with them and learn a bit of their dynamics, see their movements and each individual cat. And what a morning it has been. Through the wind and the clouds building up, we've had some really, really beautiful moments, and I'm happy to see that everybody's found themselves together again. But I'm really hoping we get to see you this afternoon. Please join us for another wonderful live safari where we can share some more of the magic with you and these stunning cats.